On your sides, Kid Talk.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Kid Talk. I'm Carrie Fury. You have heard this before, your parents saying, mind your manners. Today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at manners and see where they fit into our lives and why they're important. We'll also talk a little bit about RESPECT. Joining us now with their thoughts on manners are these students from
Hampton Roads Elementary School.
They are with us from Norfolk today, and our guest expert is Sany Dumont, an image expert with the Image Architect. Thanks to all of you for joining us today. So let's get started where we should start with you guys telling me what you think manners is. What does it mean to have manners? Maybe give me some examples. Catherine?
Manners mean, like, if you burp at the table and don't say excuse yourself, it's really disgusting, and it's so embarrassing.
It is so embarrassing and disgusting. Burping at the table, that'd be an example of bad manners. What about you, Jasmine? Can you give me an example of manners?
When you're at a restaurant and a lady doesn't get served first, that isn't really using good manners for the diners.
Okay, some people could consider that bad manners if ladies don't go first. Kelsey?
Manners show off who you really are.
Okay, you think the way you behave, your manners tells people about you.
Yes.
What do you think it tells people about you?
If I hurt somebody and I didn't say sorry, I would have good manners.
Okay, and in addition to people thinking, boy, that Kelsey, maybe she doesn't have good manners, maybe they would think you weren't a nice person because you didn't say sorry. Okay, who else wants to share some examples? Sany?
It describes your personality.
Manners describe your personality? Okay. But let's get even more simple than that. And maybe it's a good time to bring you into the conversation, Sandy. When we're talking about manners, what are we really talking about?
We're really talking about a set of rules that have been handed down maybe for hundreds of years. And they're not rules just to be rules. They're there to be practical, like the rules of the highway, so you don't bump into other cars. You know which side of the street you drive on. You know to stop when you see a red light or when you see a sign that says stop.
Okay, so they're rules. So unlike, rules of the road that are for how cars interact with each other, maybe manners are kind of those unspoken rules so that we can have positive interactions with each other. Let's talk about that, Sandy. Parents do get very concerned that the way their children behave is that direct reflection on them. But is that why parents want to teach kids manners so that they will look good, or are they just really trying to shape their kids into nice people to be around?
I expect it's a little of both, but most parents tell me that they want their children to grow up feeling more confident and feeling at ease, so they don't have to look and see what everybody else is doing. And they've taught them courtesies too, like to apologize if you've hurt somebody's feelings. And I think it's looking for their future that most parents have in mind.
What are manners really about? I mean, Kelsey, you hit on it pretty early. Are we really telling people more than I know how to say please when I say please for things? What are you really telling people about yourself when you either use or do not use manners? Let's let Ms. Sandy answer this question, then we'll take some of yours.
I think we're saying that you're educated or not educated. We think of education as being book learning, as they might say. But education has to do with the manners that your parents taught you also. And they'll think you're from the backwoods or something if you don't have standard good manners.
When we started the show, we started talking about manners. I think you guys pretty much have a handle on what manners are, and you gave me some good examples of good manners and bad manners. Jackson, you gave me an example of bad manners you thought on the part of your little brother who ordered a meal at a restaurant and then complained about it when the waiter was there. And I asked you how old he was. I have a little boy who pretty much acts like a chimpanzee most of the time, but you know what? He's only 2 years old, so I have different expectations for him because he's just a little guy than folks expect of you guys and the expectations I will have for him eventually, hopefully. What do you think about that, Sandy? When do you think it's time to start learning manners?
I think as soon as you can see that a very small child understands when you say, no, you shouldn't hit your brother. That's already teaching them good manners. Or no, you shouldn't hit your sister. So you already teach them that there are certain things that you can't do just because you want to do it.
Yeah, those are, remember we talked about some examples of manners, and you know, it's a lot of things. Manners means a lot of things. It means opening the door for your grandmother, but it also can mean those things like sharing toys. So even though you may remember being taught about table manners, maybe closer to 4, 5, or 6, I bet the first time you tried to take a toy away from your little brother, Jackson, when you were much younger, that's kind of really when manners kind of comes into our life. Sandy, let's talk about how sometimes in some settings our manners may be different depending on where we are and who we're around. Why is that the case, and is that okay?
I think it is, because the reason we have company manners and then manners when we go to a restaurant is because talking too much or talking too loudly, we're used to it at home. It may not bother us, but you don't want to make a lot of noise in a restaurant because the other people are not used to you. So you might hear your mother say, mind your manners more when you're eating out. Mm-hmm. And I remember the first time my mother made me aware when I was very small of company manners in a restaurant. I was stirring my iced tea and I was making a lot of noise with the spoon and the glass, and she said, you're making too much noise. And I thought, well, that's what I always do.
Right.
But in a restaurant, I was disturbing the people next to us. So things like that. There are some kind of company manners that we mind ourselves, and so we don't disturb other people.
How much of it do you think comes down to what we talked about before, which is expectations? When it comes down to having different manners when you're around different people, how much of it do you think comes down to just knowing what that other person would expect or appreciate? Do you think it's important to know in advance the kind of person? See, because I may be over at Sonny's house, and I may know that Sonny doesn't care if I put my feet up on his coffee table. You care?
Yes.
All righty. Sorry, Sonny, bad manners on my part, but now I know, so that I would not do that again with Sonny, but maybe I had another friend who didn't care, and maybe I would feel more comfortable. All right, let's have some fun now. Let's talk about manners from other cultures. We've got a few little nuggets here to share with you. They're courtesy of HowStuffWorks.com. Okay, one of the first things, Catherine, I think you brought up as an example of bad manners was belching at the table. Is it okay to belch after you eat? No? Well, look at this. In China, in Taiwan, in much of the Far East, it is considered a compliment to the chef and a sign that you have eaten well and enjoyed your meal. So if you're ever in, South Korea having a meal, go ahead and make noise because it lets the chef know that you enjoyed their meal. Isn't that funny? When you meet someone in this country, what do you often do? What are you often encouraged to do? Shake hands. Shake hands, right? In this country, a firm handshake is considered something that is to be respected. Well, in the Philippines, it's considered a sign of aggression. Just if you grabbed any other part of a person's body and just gave it a firm squeeze for no reason. For people who are Orthodox Jews, they will not shake hands with someone of the opposite sex, and a strict Muslim woman will not shake hands with a man. So let's get back to you, Sandy. When you hear about some of these differences in cultures, how important is it, again, to understand the beliefs and the customs and the manners of other cultures or countries if you're going to visit?
It's very important, and Americans sometimes forget that they are the guest in the foreign country. So you need to look around and see what other people are doing. I've lived in Europe many years, and they keep both hands on the table, but touching here and here. And so your mother was right when she said, don't put your elbows on the table. So they keep both hands on the table, and they eat with their left hand, too. So that's considered good manners, and they wonder why we take all that time to switch hands. So when you're around people who do things differently, you don't need to point it out if they're here in our country, but if you're there, you should try to do as close to what they're doing as possible. It won't be too different. In most of the Western world, we have pretty much the same manners.
When you guys go out to a restaurant with your families, do you notice your parents or grandparents, aunts and uncles leaving a tip for the person who served you?
Yes.
We would consider that nice manners, right?
Yes.
In Japan and South Korea, it's an insult rather than a compliment. Accepting tips is akin to begging. But this tradition is starting to change a little bit, though, as more Westerners are going over there. Okay, all right. How do you give the okay sign? Who can show me? Can you guys show me the okay sign? The thumbs up, okay? Okay, a thumbs up. This is the okay sign. You guys know this? Okay, it is okay for me to give you guys the okay sign, but it is not okay in Germany and in most of South America. It's okay. It's not okay. It's an insult. What about the peace sign? Peace? Two fingers, peace? In the United Kingdom, you guys know where the United Kingdom is, in England, two-fingered V for victory or peace salute is given with the hand turned so that the palm faces inward. It's considered extremely rude over there to, you know, face your palm out. So you got to face it inward. Isn't that interesting? We're coming to the end of another Kid Talk. Thanks to all of you guys at home for watching, and these students from You've been a wonderful group of kids to talk to, very well-mannered, I may say. We've been talking about manners all morning long, and our guest expert, Ms. Sany Dumont, with the Image Architect. I want to hear a little bit more about that, the Image Architect. What is it that you do?
My business is image. I make certain that people are aware of all the rules of color and style and line so that before they open their mouths, they get a favorable judgment, because the way you look and dress is going to announce the outcome that other people expect from you. And it also announces how you feel about yourself, so sometimes you're treated accordingly. So it's important to know a few rules about color and line.
So important that people ask people like Ms. Dumont to help them with their manners. Did people ask you to help them before they're about to travel? Do you help them with things like that?
Yes, for job interviews, they always take you to a restaurant. They want to see if you have good manners, and if you don't, you might not get hired.
All right, so that's why your moms and dads are teaching you now about good manners and etiquette. Well, give yourselves a round of applause. You've been great today. And we appreciate everybody at home who was watching our show, too. We'll be back next Saturday with another Kid Talk. And again, don't forget, you can also watch Kid Talk online. We'll see you back here next Saturday at 11:30 right here on WAVY TV 10. Have a great week, everybody.